Good evening, I'm Nancy Francis. Next on News 8 at 5, vandals target a statewide group actively opposing gay rights. A stabbing at a hotel adds to Portland's already high murder rate, and children looking to improve their math scores may find the solution at the video arcades. A full hour of news is next.
Now the only place to find a full hour of local news on the weekend is News 8 at 5. Watch us work even harder for you on a new hour-long weekend edition of News 8 at 5.
If I didn't have a great relationship with the factory, I couldn't get the cars I get now in volume. The availability of some of these products is scarce, as people know, and we don't have a problem with availability. We can get the cars. We have a tremendous selection of automobiles, 5 dealerships, 3,000–4,000 cars in stock, and that's what people want. So that's why I say, if you don't come see me today, I can't save you any money.
The following demonstration is brought to you by ordinary children with extraordinary skills.
Bonjour, comment allez-vous? Je m'appelle Jenna et j'ai 6 ans.
Cells arise only from other cells.
The first major trend in modern art was the exploration of form.
Can you create genius? Thursday on News 8 at 5, explore the brainchild. Is it Mother Nature or Mother's Nurture? KGW TV, Portland. From all over the Northwest, when news happens, you'll see it live on News 8. And now, News 8 at 5.
Good evening. Offices of the Oregon Citizens Alliance were vandalized overnight, and the OCA is convinced militant homosexuals are behind it. News 8's Ann Jaeger reports.
The damage is minimal.
The cement block here, it's dented, put a 3-inch dent on the side door, and it looks like another dent down here, and then against the window.
A chunk of cement and broken pop bottles left their marks on the windows, but did not break the glass. The Oregon Citizens Alliance is convinced it could have been much worse.
This is the kind of thing that shakes you up real bad, because you know it's a warning. We don't even have our initiative yet.
Philip Ramsdell of the OCA accuses homosexuals of the vandalism. Even though there is no proof, Ramsdell believes militant gays are angry about the OCA's drive to ban homosexuality, pedophilia, masochism, and sadomasochism. He also claims the vandalism was sparked by this week's OCA distribution of a new video about gay parades in other states.
We do a lot of bondage.
Anything that you can find in a hardware store, we know how to play with real well.
Ramsdell says this isn't the first time this has happened, and the death threats are getting worse.
What I fear for is my family, and I can't afford as a political person to back down, but my wife often works here at night at fundraising and things like that. It has an effect on you.
The Clackamas County Sheriff's Office investigated, and so far there's no evidence that this is anything other than a random act of vandalism.
I don't think that it's a life and death issue. I don't know anything about the dealings that they're having, with the homosexual community. It's just somebody threw a rock at their window.
The OCA is talking about hiring night security to protect its political headquarters near Wilsonville.
This is a warning to OCA.
And warranted or not, they're bracing for the worst as their campaign against homosexuality kicks into high gear. Ann Jaeger, News 8.
And the OCA expects the Oregon Supreme Court to decide this month whether its initiative petition is constitutionally sound. If the Supreme Court gives its approval, the Oregon Citizens Alliance will need 83,000 signatures to get its anti-homosexuality measure on the 1992 ballot. Police arrested 14 protesters on misdemeanor charges last night outside the Jansen Beach Red Lion Inn, where Vice President Dan Quayle was speaking. The Vice President was in town to receive the Patriots Award from the Congressional Medal of Honor Society. During his speech, he said he was proud of the medal recipients and proud of his own service in the National Guard. Quayle also mentioned the protesters.
Freedom to protest, even to protest an award to the Vice President. Because protest is part of democracy.
175 police officers were on duty last night to make sure the protest did not get out of hand. Vice President Dan Quayle may have left Portland last night, but members of the Congressional Medal of Honor Society were literally in full swing here today. 19 members of the society were teeing off this morning at the first annual Celebrate Freedom golf tournament. Several area celebrities also thought a nice game of golf was a good way to honor the medal winners.
I think it's great. It's an opportunity for the Medal of Honor winners to get out and have a good time, and they're doing a lot of wondrous things in the community, visiting the schools, things like that. And us old beat-up guys that are retired from other sports can come out and have a good time with these guys.
Today's game is in conjunction with the Society's biennial convention in Vancouver. Tomorrow, the nation commemorates Veterans Day, and for the next 24 hours, Air Force cadets want Americans to remember another group of veterans who are sometimes overlooked on this holiday. A guard will stand vigil at the University of Portland for 24 hours to draw attention to prisoners of war and men missing in action. It's a nationwide effort by Air Force ROTC and Academy cadets. The cadets want to symbolize the sacrifices of Americans who have not come back from military service. This vigil at the University of Portland Broken Wall Memorial will continue until 11 tomorrow morning. Other Veterans Day observances tomorrow include a parade in Northeast Portland's Hollywood District at 10:15, a ceremony at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington Park, that's at 8:30 in the morning, and the big Veterans Day parade in Albany starts at 10. A transient hotel was the scene last night of Portland's 52nd murder of the year. Portland police were called to the Joyce Hotel around 9 p.m. on a report a man was bleeding in the lobby.
There seems to be only one person involved in this. In terms of the victim, he's a Hispanic male.
The as-yet unidentified 37-year-old victim was pronounced dead at the scene. Meantime, 38-year-old Michael Dean Lowe was taken into custody in connection with the stabbing. Lowe also lived at the Joyce Hotel. He's charged with murder and is being held without bail in the Justice Center jail. Firefighters in Salem remembered Roy Kirk today as a hero. The 66-year-old Kirk, a retired firefighter who worked as a security guard, was shot to death yesterday by a man who carried a rifle to the Salem factory that Kirk guarded. Police say the suspect in the killing was an employee of the plant and was looking for his supervisor when he was confronted by Kirk. An honor guard raised a flag to half-staff this morning at a Salem fire station to honor Kirk as members of his family looked on. NBC's Unsolved Mysteries takes on a Salem case in tonight's broadcast. The episode is about the mysterious disappearance of Sherry Irely. On the evening of July 4th, 1982, 18-year-old Irely was sent to deliver a pizza along Farragut Road, south of Salem. Unfortunately, she was given a phony address. Sherry's car was found in the area later that night, but she hasn't been seen since. A prime suspect in the case was Darrell Wilson. Wilson, however, was found hanged to death shortly after Sherry's disappearance. Sherry's parents were interviewed extensively for the story and are anxious for the national exposure. Tonight's episode of Unsolved Mysteries airs on Channel 8 this evening at 8 o'clock. A 21-year-old Portland man was charged today with reckless driving after a bizarre incident yesterday on I-5. Oregon State Police say Scott Hagan allegedly forced a driver off the freeway yesterday just south of the Donald Aurora exit. The driver, 62-year-old Leon Metzing of Salem, was pronounced dead at the scene from unrelated causes. Hagan will not be charged with Metzing's death. However, Hagan is also thought to be responsible for forcing other drivers off the freeway yesterday, just south of Wilsonville. One of America's most prominent black leaders called for change in lifestyle today to combat the AIDS virus. Reverend Jesse Jackson, speaking in Detroit, said the change must be at the individual level and also in government policies. Jackson said Magic Johnson's announcement that he had the HIV virus fired a cannonball through souls. The Reverend called today's sermon a teach-in, saying that Americans must change their lifestyles, including what children are taught.
Well, Magic, with God's help, can beat it. With God's help, we beat more than AIDS.
Jackson's teaching in Detroit continues. Tomorrow, he will talk again about AIDS education to the city's Northern High School. Sparks were flying today as the two controversial Louisiana gubernatorial candidates squared off against one another. David Duke, a former leader of the Ku Klux Klan, sparred with his opponent, former Governor Edwin Edwards, who was acquitted of federal racketeering charges in 1986. The two appeared this morning on NBC's Meet the Press.
My past is certainly an issue, and I have regret over some of the intolerant things that I've said.
If, in fact, he has changed as he says he has, and maybe he has, then I think he owes it to us to go back into the community where he stirred up such controversy and hatred in the past 20 years and do some community service and prove by his actions rather than his words that he is a different man. And then when he has established a record of healing and help instead of hatred and hurt, then come ask us if to be governor of the state.
You say I should take 20 years? Yeah, sir, it would take you a lifetime to repair the damages that have been done, the corruption in government in Louisiana, the sole positions, sole offices, the violent criminals who've been let back out in our streets.
A record 2.1 million people in Louisiana have registered to vote in next Saturday's runoff election. Well, Jack Capell is here now to usher in more rain here in Oregon.
More rain coming. The very mild weather conditions continue today, though. That's good for travelers across the Cascades passes because conditions are very good for traveling, but not so good for ski areas. They've had no new snow up in the ski areas. This very mild air continues coming in from off the Pacific, almost directly from the west. They can look for some cooling about midweek, however. Timberline remained closed this weekend, but we do have some rain coming in starting tomorrow. And that's what I'll be talking about in a few minutes.
Thank you, Jack. We've got much more news for you in the rest of this hour. The rising cost of getting and staying healthy in Portland is enough to make your blood pressure rise. A program to help keep recovering alcoholics and drug addicts clean and sober and out of jail is about to hit bottom. And later in sports, Joe Becker will show you a 4.5-pound card of support from Magic Johnson.
This edition of News 8 is closed caption for the hearing impaired through a generous grant from Smith's Home Furnishings, because nobody cares like Smith's.
Winter in Les Schwab country. Where you are depends on how tough it can be. For many of us, the only real challenge is when we cross the mountains. This is why Les Schwab's passenger chain policy is so popular. If you don't use them, return them in the spring. As to day-to-day winter driving, stopping quickly and safely in the rain is a must. We suggest Les Schwab All Seasons Radials, our best selection ever, in stock and ready to put on. Mounted free, backed in writing. Whatever kind of winter you have, Les Schwab Traction will make it better.
You look like a tramp, and you're going to get the wrong attention.
13-year-old Kimberly loves the way she dresses, but her mother is outraged. 14-year-old Christina thinks her clothes will help her become a model, but her mom says they'll only help her get into trouble. And Carrie doesn't care what her mom says.
I think I look great.
Is there anything a mother can do when my daughter dresses like a tramp on the next Sally?
Monday at 4.
Sometimes people can make a difference.
I think that I just have a basic compassion and interest in people. And when I see people being abused or mistreated or treated without respect, then I say, wait a second, you know, something's wrong here. Somebody's got to do something about that.
For news that works for you, watch us weeknights on News 8 at 5.
We don't have any food, so we're going to have to go out to dinner.
Good idea. I know a great place.
If you want to savor the aroma and taste of your meal without the smell of tobacco, pick up an Oregon Smoke-Free Dining Guide. Whether it's fast food or gourmet, the American Lung Association of Oregon and Channel 8 believe your lungs deserve a break.
Thanks for dinner, honey. We should do this more often.
Pick up your guide to smoke-free restaurants at KGW TV or call 1-800-545-5864.
Better late than never. Don't miss our 28th Happy Birthday Sale. Save $50 on this 25-inch Zenith remote, only $397. A full-size white Westinghouse washer and dryer pair, only $447. Save $180 on this stylish sofa and love seat combination, only $497. All this plus free interest, free delivery, free clock. Now that's Tom Peterson, and I'm listening to my wife.
Here's some incentive to stay healthy. Medical costs in the Portland area are reportedly rising twice as fast as prices charged for everything else. An analyst with a Portland healthcare consulting firm says prices for 3 of 5 most common hospital treatments rose about 12% between 1989 and 1990. Tom Lundberg also says even the cost of the most frequently performed hospital service, delivering a baby, has increased almost 10% from 1989. A routine birth and delivery with a 2-day hospital stay now runs about $2,300. The report goes on to say that in Oregon, the cost of the average hospital stay increased almost 13.5% in the past 2 years. Hospital experts blame the high increase on the amount they must pay to subsidize the shortfall in Medicare payments. One of the few successful programs for keeping people with mental health and drug and alcohol problems out of jail is in danger of losing its funding. The Transition Project's High Resource Program will run out of money in 3 months due to budget cuts for Measure 5. News 8's Pat Doris is in our newsroom now. Pat, what sort of effect will this have on people now in the program?
Well, Nancy, I suspect it'll shut it down cold, and it will mean that 120 people a year will go to jail, possibly. That is, instead of being diverted to this program. This is often the only thing that keeps these people from behind bars, and the case of Leo Benavidez is a good example. It's a Thursday afternoon, and 40-year-old Leo Benavidez is in trouble, charged with possession and delivery of cocaine. He's in the crowded halls of the Justice Center, hoping his public defender, Michael McShane, can keep him out of prison. McShane will bargain with Deputy District Attorney Downing Bethune.
He has 2 cases?
Yeah. If Benavidez goes to trial and loses, he faces 90 days jail. The DA has offered to drop 1 charge and ask for 60 days if Benavidez will skip the trial and plead guilty. The conversation is joined by Guillermo Chamorro from Transition Projects, which is already helping Benavidez.
It's not an inpatient. It is a drug treatment program. He is checking in 3 times a week with our alcohol and drug program. He is checking with me, our corrections program, twice a week. He's checking with PRSP at a regular basis. He's one of our best clients.
Bethune is impressed and will consider dropping the jail time.
What would you suggest?
About complete the Transition Project program successfully, or 60 days jail.
How about community service?
And he can do community service there.
This is the Transition Project shelter. Benavidez is already volunteering as a translator here. On any Sunday, the place is filled with people. Many have drug and alcohol addictions, along with mental health problems. Transition Projects works to straighten out those difficulties, hoping to get these people off the streets, into jobs, and keep them out of jail. Gene DeMaster heads the program and says the justice system supports it.
So the judges like to say, let's not just put somebody in jail and then have them get involved in drugs and alcohol as soon as they get out. Let's treat the real problem and have people get into a recovery program. They'll then be self-sufficient and taxpayers instead of being put in jail costing taxpayers money.
You know, I'd like some information on this.
Finally, the attorneys agree. Transition Projects will keep Benavidez out of jail. The judge sentences him to complete the program and serve more than 300 hours community service.
But if you come back into court and if you're found in violation by me, you'll go to the penitentiary without possibility of parole.
Now, this high resource program at Transition Projects has a success rate, Nancy, of 50 to 55%. It helps about 40 people at any one time. Nancy?
Pat, I would guess that in the long run, the cost for taxpayers of this program is a lot less than the cost of jail space that could be used for the more dangerous criminals.
Oh, it certainly is. Program coordinators tell me that it costs about half as much as putting one of these people in jail. And the other thing is that in the criminal justice system, there often is not enough time to get to the core problem. And so there's an extremely high recidivism rate. It's where these people keep coming back into the criminal justice system time and again. And everyone, from prosecutors to defense attorneys to judges that I've talked with, think that if more money and time could be spent getting at these root problems, that recidivism rate would go down, and so would the crime problem. The problem is it's not a sexy political issue, and so it's very hard to get that kind of money spent on those programs. Nancy?
Thank you, Pat Doris. On the lighter side, one of Portland's oldest churches is serving up sausage and sauerkraut tonight. It's the St. Patrick's Church annual dinner to benefit the continuing restoration efforts of this historic building.
This is, I think, the oldest Catholic church in Portland. Doesn't have its own parish as such anymore, so we have to have fundraisers to help preserve this beautiful old church.
St. Patrick's is almost 103 years old and is recognized on the National Register of Historic Places. The church, which is in Northwest Portland's industrial area, also is being designated as a Portland Historic Landmark. The annual Toys for Tots donation drive began today in Portland. Marine Corps Major General James Livingston began the event with a ceremony praising past supporters. Livingston said Portland's commitment to the program is a tribute to the community.
Because the Toys for Tots program, the success of it is not a reflection of the Marine Corps. It's the reflection of the attitude of the community.
Livingston kicked off the drive by dropping the first toy into the Toys for Tots barrel. Last year, the Corps collected more than 10,000 toys for needy families. The goal this year is 15,000. Coming up on this new one-hour edition of News 8, Jack Capell with an umbrella warning. We'll check back with the people of Centralia who were flooded out of their homes a couple of months back. And later in the hour, a polar bear pilgrimage.
If ever you're not satisfied with one of our tires, please feel free to bring it back. Thank you. America's Tire Company.
With a smile, she poured me a cup of Boyd's French Medallion.
Final day Monday for everything on sale at Smith's Home Furnishing.
Save on sofas, love seats, sleepers, recliners, tables, and mattresses.
Save on washers, dryers, refrigerators, ranges, and dishwashers.
Save on TVs, camcorders, VCRs, big screens, stereos, and computers.
Monday, 10 till 9, while everything is on sale at Smith's.
Plus, no down payment, no monthly payments, and no interest until May.
If you can see it, you'll save on it during the final day Monday for everything on sale at Smith's.
People who don't belong just don't get it.
I think they think we're just a bunch of beer-drinking winos that go and puke on their lawn at 4 o'clock in the morning.
People whose sons belong just wonder.
It's an actual hit, but it's home.
But a tried and true member knows what fraternity life is really all about.
I mean, back to school. Yeah, it's all about school.
It's the male bonding thing that people overlook.
Find out what's going down on Fraternity Row in a special report starting Monday on News 8 at 5.
The first annual Candid Camera Laugh-a-thon, and we're raising millions of laughs like this. Our photo booth phony is bearing it all. But will these ladies sneak a peek? And for these temps, taking a message is a big job, but somebody's got to do it.
Oh, God, how do you hang up?
Gigantic laughs are guaranteed all this month during the Candid Camera Laugh-a-thon. Don't you dare miss it.
Monday at 6:30 on Channel 8.
She was a typical American teenager, a hard-working honor student with a boyfriend, and for that, her father murdered her.
Why would she want to go and have a boyfriend? She didn't want to listen.
From the chilling audio tape that recorded her brutal killing to a shocking family interview.
Did Tina deserve to die?
Yes.
The disturbing story of a culture gone mad.
She brought that death to herself.
Die, my daughter, die.
Monday.
For the second time in less than 2 weeks, bad weather has pummeled North Carolina. A fierce Atlantic storm lashed the coast with 50-mile-an-hour winds, large waves, and heavy rain. Officials say at least one home was knocked down. Coastal areas from the Carolinas up to New Jersey are vulnerable. Gale warnings are being issued for areas in Rhode Island and the Long Island Sound. The storm could reach those coasts by tomorrow. And Jack hinted earlier that we're expecting a little rain in this corner of the world.
Yes, we got by without today, and we had very mild weather today, but tomorrow we are looking at some rain. There's storms coming in from the Pacific. Right now, that mild air is presenting a temperature of 54 degrees here in downtown Portland. That is at Portland Airport, 53 at Portland Airport. And there's the very light wind of only southeast 3 miles an hour. We've had very little wind for the last 24 hours. The high temperature today reached into the upper 60s with 58, the high at Portland Airport. That's 4 degrees above normal for this time of the year. And the low this morning was 7 degrees above normal with a low of 46. The rainfall was 0 since midnight, and we are just right on normal for the month of November now, and we're below normal for the year. Freezing level clear up to 10,500 feet as the mild air continues. The satellite picture shows why we're getting such mild air. Notice the way the clouds are moving in from the west-southwest, but there's one big mass of clouds moving toward the coast right now. In fact, it's onshore in British Columbia, beginning to move onshore in Washington, and that is producing some rain. There's the service map, shows the front associated with it, and there's another front right behind that. So we're in for a series of storms coming in for the next few days. We'll have mild air for a couple of days and then start to cool off after that. Now the temperatures over the west are showing that cold air to the north of us right now. 15 at Fairbanks for the high, 8 at Dawson City for the high, 31 at Anchorage, and we expect Alaska to continue to get colder. Now we're getting air almost directly from west to east. and that doesn't allow that cold air up north to interchange much with the air to the south. So that means the cold air will continue to develop to the north. Now, the clouds superimposed on here shows that big mass of clouds against the coast right now that will be producing rain tomorrow. And we expect the upper air chart tomorrow evening will look like this. One disturbance already having moved through, another one on the way. The air coming in from the west-southwest to keep freezing levels high for at least that period. On Wednesday, though, things will begin to drop. The storm track will move farther south. More cold air will start to mix in, and we will have lowering freezing levels by that time. And the temperature around the Portland metropolitan area today in the upper 50s generally, although it reached 64 at Estacada, where they had a little bit more break in the cloudiness and more sunshine. The highs today, mostly in the 50s west of the Cascades, except in southwestern Oregon and in eastern Oregon, and mostly in the 50s, but in eastern Washington, some in the 40s, where they had persistent low cloudiness in some areas. The lows this morning, again mild, both east and west of the Cascades, and they did have areas of fog this morning, and also east of the mountains, quite a few areas of low clouds and fog. The rainfall in the last 24 hours occurred last evening mostly, and it was mostly in western Washington and northwestern Oregon. We had 0.03 of an inch here last evening. Now, the forecast for the Portland-Vancouver area is for cloudy tonight. There will be some areas of fog developing later on tonight. In fact, there's some light fog already forming around the Salem area. Some will be around the Portland area. Low about 47, again mild, light winds. And for tomorrow, look for rain coming in by the afternoon. A high temperature tomorrow, mild, about 60 degrees, and a little pickup in the southeast winds. So going into a rather rainy period for the next few days. Now, Pete Parsons will be back in just a few minutes to talk about national weather, also talk about the regional forecast around Oregon.
Right. All right. Thank you, Jack. In Washington state, Centralia is still digging out from last month's flood. That's when the city's 3 million gallon water reservoir gave way. As John Sandifer reports tonight, many flood-damaged residents are unhappy because their homes cannot be completely restored with the insurance money they're receiving.
There are still layers of sticky mud surrounding dozens of homes where a wall of water came crashing down from the reservoir on the hill. The goo is still being scraped up from under the homes, washed off of driveways, rototilled into yards. The city hasn't determined whether the old 1920s reservoir gave way and washed part of the hillside away, or if the hillside gave way first. Soil testing is underway to find out because it could happen again. These houses were directly in the path of the rushing water and took heavy damage. The property was insured against damage by the city, actually by a cooperative of cities. But many of the property owners believe they are being victimized all over again in the way the cities are handling their insurance claims.
They've only got, for all these claims, they estimate 80 to 100 homes, and they've only got one adjuster working on it 2 days a week.
And we got a check, but we're not going to accept it.
Why?
Because it's not enough to do what the work we have to have done around here.
Now, did you get a check, too?
No, I haven't got a check. I haven't got nothing.
Neighbors complain that they have been pressured to settle quickly and for less or face long delays. And they have felt pressured to choose contractors chosen by a claims adjuster instead of local businesses. Caught in the middle is the mayor, who tells them,
let's talk and let's keep working at it. We want to make them happy as we are able to do within our financial bounds.
But you're not going to be able to do as much as they want.
For some of them, no.
As the cleanup goes on, one of the things the city has had trouble explaining is why a publicly financed insurance policy will only restore property to its fair market value, not to the replacement cost like private insurances. That seems to be a major hang-up in Centralia. John Sandifer, News 8.
And turning to sports now, here's Joe Becker.
Well, the Blazers are playing the Boston Celtics as we speak. The game got underway shortly after 5 o'clock, and right now they are in the first quarter, so let's check the scoreboard to see how they're doing early in the game, and the Blazers are leading by a score of 21-16. Both teams are 2-3 in the season, and I'll have highlights of the game tonight at 11 o'clock. Meanwhile, the Lakers will be at the Forum tonight to host the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's the Lakers' first home game since Magic Johnson retired last week because of the AIDS virus. The Lakers say that Johnson and his wife are out of town. They will not be at the game tonight. Meanwhile, Johnson continues to get support from his loyal fans. About 30,000 people signed this huge greeting card with words of encouragement and support for Johnson. The huge banner weighs 4.5 pounds. It was stretched across a mall in Northridge, California. Well, the Washington Redskins continue to hang on to the best record in the NFL. They hammered the Falcons 56-17 today, running the record to 10-0. Vice President Dan Quayle was in Portland yesterday, but he was in Washington today to watch the Skins take on the Falcons. First quarter, Mark Rippon to Terry Orr. It's an easy touchdown, 7-0 Washington. Rippon had an unbelievable day. He passed for more than 400 yards and 6 touchdown passes. That one a 41-yarder to Gary Clark. And Rippon also ran for a score. He faked out the cameraman on this bootleg and then faked the spike and then flips it to the referee. They win it. They're now 10-0. Meanwhile, the Saints keep winning. Steve Walsh goes to Eric Martin, 8 yards. It's the only touchdown of the game. The Saints win at 10-3 to run their record to 9-1. Now, a scary thing happened at the Superdome. At halftime, they had a fireworks display, but it caused a small fire at the top. They had to send a brave soul up there to put it out, and then a part of it went down burning to the turf, and immediately firefighters were on it with ice and water, and they were able to put it out. What a scary moment there at the Superdome. And it was a crazy day in Houston. Last week, they fired their kicker after missing a field goal that would have won the game. Their new kicker, Al Del Greco, booted 4 of them, including one in overtime. They beat Dallas 26-23. In Seattle playing at San Diego. Second half, Hawks trailing 14-0. John L. Williams fumbles on the 2-yard line. The Chargers recover. But the Hawks get the ball back. Dave Craig, short pass to John L. in the fourth quarter. He scores the touchdown. This makes it 14-7. Short while later, they get the ball back again. Craig fires it up for Jeff Chadwick, and watch the catch he makes in the corner of the end zone. It's good for 7. It's tied at 14-14. But with 23 seconds to go, Chargers place kicker John Carney's the hero. A 53-yard field goal. The Seahawks lose at 17-14. Seattle now 5-5 on the season. Elsewhere in the NFL, Buffalo whipped Green Bay by 10. Tampa Bay wins for only the second time this season. The Colts snap a 9-game losing streak and get their first win of the year. Bernie Kosar broke the record for most passes without an interception. Kosar went 308 passes before he had one picked off today in the Browns' loss to Philly. Pittsburgh beat Cincinnati in overtime. Kansas City over the Rams by 7. The Raiders tipped Denver by 1, and the Giants over Phoenix. New England and Miami just underway, and Chicago will play at Minnesota tomorrow night. Well, the Portland State Vikings are building steam and appear ready for another run at the national title. Last night, the Vikings ripped Cal State Northridge 38-13. Weather not so great at the stadium. As you can see, it's raining a little bit there, but the Vikings made it worthwhile for their fans. They pounded the Matadors. First quarter, John Charles with a beautiful pass to Alan Boschma. 7-0 lead for the Vikings. Charles passed for more than 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. This one to Henry Newson. The play works for 73 yards. The Vikings going to win it big. 38-13, their 7th consecutive win. Portland State now 8-2 with 1 game left in the regular season. And the Winterhawks must be feeling better today because last night they snapped a 3-game losing streak. They had a thrilling 6-5 victory over Tacoma. To pick up the action in the third period, Hawks are down 5-4. But Steve Konowalchuk ties the score 5-5 when the puck deflecting off his skate. And that set up a thrilling finish. Time running down. The hero is Lane Rowland. With 21 seconds to go, he scores. The Hawks win at 6-5. They're now 6-10-3 on the season. They play at Kamloops Tuesday night and then take on Tri-Cities Wednesday at the Coliseum. And once again, the Gresham Gophers are celebrating another girls' state 4A high school volleyball championship. Last night, top-ranked Gresham took on second-ranked Centennial. It was the girls' final at the Child Center. And for the 6th straight year, 2 teams from Mount Hood Conference playing in the final. The Gophers won the match easily 15-4, 15-6. It was their 4th consecutive state championship, their 5th in the last 6 seasons. Gresham finished the season 31-4, Centennial 26-6. And I'll be back later in the hour with an update on the Blazers game with the Celtics.
Great. Thanks, Joe. Next up on News 8 at 5, we will recap the day's top news stories. California farmers are concerned about a pesky bug that may affect how much you will pay for produce. And we'll show you a new computer game designed to help kids improve their math.
We're giving away a 92 Mazda MX-3, so watch Channel 8's Good Evening and pick up your official entry blanks at these participating Mazda dealers.
Better late than never. Don't miss our 28th Happy Birthday sale. Save $50 on this 25-inch Zenith remote, only $397. A full-size white Westinghouse washer and dryer pair, only $447. Save $180 on this stylish sofa and love seat combination, only $497. All this plus free interest, free delivery, free clock. Now, that's Tom Peterson, and I'm listening to my wife.
Hello, I'm Pete Schulberg from News 8 with an Earth Alert tip of the week. Did you know you can make simple weatherization improvements without breaking your bank account? Listen to this expert.
Wall plug gaskets, weather stripping, or a sealant can make your home more comfortable and reduce your energy bill.
For more information on weatherizing your home, call the OSU Extension Service at 241-9172. This Earth Alert tip from Channel 8, Portland General Electric, and Copeland Lumber.
The truth behind
Lust in the afternoon.
Oh, yes. Well, that's what we do best.
Daytime TV comes clean.
The plots are pretty silly.
Silly? No. Get the dirt on soaps.
We're not like doing Shakespeare here.
The naked truth.
From both sides of the camera.
Oh, it's hot.
Soaps, lies,
and videotape.
Monday at 7:30 on Good Evening.
See what's got everyone in such a lather.
No, I'm not. You don't think you're hurt?
The following demonstration is brought to you by ordinary children with extraordinary skills.
Bonjour, comment allez-vous? Je m'appelle Jenna et j'ai 6 ans.
Cells arise only from other cells.
The first major trend in modern art was the exploration of form.
Can you create genius? Thursday on News 8 at 5, explore the brainchild. Is it Mother Nature or Mother's nurture?
If you are just joining us, we are headed into the second half of our new one-hour weekend broadcast, and here are the stories we're following tonight. The Oregon Citizens Alliance office near Wilsonville was vandalized last night. Someone threw pop bottles and a chunk of cement at the windows and front door, but no glass was broken. The OCA blames it on militant homosexuals, although there is no evidence to prove who did the damage, according to the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. A transient hotel was the scene last night of Portland's 52nd murder of the year. The as-yet unidentified 37-year-old victim was reportedly stabbed to death in the Joyce Hotel lobby. Police have charged 38-year-old Michael Dean Lowe with the murder. Lowe also lived in the hotel. He is now being held without bail in the Justice Center jail. Rising medical costs continue to make headlines this year. A Portland healthcare analyst says prices for 3 of the 5 most common hospital treatments rose about 12% between 1989 and 1990. In Oregon, the average cost of a hospital stay reportedly increased almost 13.5% in the past 2 years. Hospital administrators blame the rising costs on the amount they must pay to subsidize the shortfall in Medicare payments. In tonight's News of the West segment, a tiny white fly is causing a stir in the central coast of California. This insect has already wiped out 1,000 acres of crops in the desert area of Southern California. The poinsettia whitefly is causing a nationwide produce shortage, which could push prices up at the supermarket. Heidi Mitchell has the story.
Now, those are the eggs for the whitefly before they emerge as adults.
A Salinas grower is trying to get rid of whiteflies and the eggs they've left behind underneath the leaves of poinsettia plants. These could be the typical greenhouse whiteflies or poinsettia whiteflies, shown here in Imperial County. The superbug, as it's called, has destroyed thousands of acres of winter crops in this desert area. Local Agriculture Commissioner Dick Nutter says the insect is hard to control.
So you can have a generation in just a few days. And so when you have millions of these things hatching at one time, you come in and try to treat it with a chemical. The chemicals, while they might kill some of them, are not going to kill all of them, and they keep breeding and expanding until there's just no way to control them. There's just too many insects around.
The Imperial Valley's $22 million fall melon crop has been wiped out, and now the whitefly is attacking broccoli, carrots, cabbage, and cauliflower. One local grower who has crops in Imperial County could lose them.
you know, they've fed on the plants so extensively that the plant's growth is just totally disrupted. You know, we don't know what's going to happen.
The spray program, the routines.
And that's why growers aren't taking any chances.
Those are whitefly adults, the two little dots right there. And of course, they'll reproduce and make more eggs, and unless we control them, the plant won't be saleable.
Last night, this greenhouse was fumigated with wet sprays and smoke bombs, and tonight, it will be done again.
A truckload of Oregon spuds is on the way to aid disaster relief efforts in Oakland, California. A group of Klamath Basin potato growers want to help the California residents who were burned out of their homes last month. Circle C Incorporated, a trucking firm based in Malin, Oregon, is delivering 42,000 pounds of U.S. #1 potatoes to the Red Cross in Oakland. The San Francisco Bay Area is the Klamath Basin's main market for fresh potatoes, so the group says it was natural to think about helping out. The Oakland fire erupted October 20th. It killed 24 people and destroyed almost 3,000 homes and apartments. Parents often complain kids get so involved with video games their schoolwork suffers. A Utah school, however, is combining video game technology with a unique educational program. Bob Grover has more on the math class of the future.
Slashing, stabbing, blasting, video games do a lot of killing, but not a lot of instructing. But this new computer game is completely different. Instead of scoring points by blowing away the bad guy, players advance by completing math problems. And students say they hardly know they're doing classwork.
Instead of doing math, you get to play games.
Because there's lots of fun games on it, and you just learn new skills.
The Waterford Private School in Sandy developed these mental math games to help kids overcome a national trend toward weakness in math. The kids themselves helped create the program.
Some of them were outstanding programmers and not only made suggestions for how the game would look, but also made some very significant contributions to the actual workings of the games.
They're really excited.
Deborah Goodson says because her students enjoy the games, she can use them in her 5th grade class for discipline as well as teaching.
I can threaten them all day with, well, you don't get to go on the computers unless. And this is a real fun thing for them. And they learn in leaps and bounds this way because it's individualized.
Waterford administrators say since the inception of the computer math program, students' problem-solving speed has multiplied 3 times. But the kids still just call it fun.
And coming up on this Sunday edition of News 8 at 5, new scientific developments that may one day affect where your electricity comes from. And in our weekly environmental report, we'll revisit the ravaged oil fields of Kuwait.
We price our cars very low with very low profit margins. And quite frankly, we make it up in volume. We don't feel it's necessary to charge a customer full retail for a car. We'd rather give them a discount. We'd rather give them a very, very competitive price, make them happy, and make them want to come back and buy another car. So that's why I say, if you don't come see me today, I can't save you any money.
Pacific Linen has top quality, awesome selection, and fantastic prices. And now, during our holiday sale, you'll find 200 thread count, 100% cotton sheets from Martex. Pamper yourself with these silky, soft, durable, solid color sheets. A sensational value at just $9.99 for the twin size. No one sells them for less. These 200 thread count sheets are a great gift idea, too. The holiday sale, now at Pacific Linen.
Final day Monday for everything on sale at Smith's Home Furnishing.
Save on sofas, love seats, sleepers, recliners, tables, and mattresses.
Save on washers, dryers, refrigerators, ranges, and dishwashers.
Save on TVs, camcorders, VCRs, big screens, stereos, and computers.
Monday 10 till 9 while everything is on sale at Smith.
Plus no down payment, no monthly payments, and no interest until May.
If you can see it, you'll save on it during the final day Monday for everything on sale at Smith's.
The Amazing Microdial, presented by Cathy Crosby.
Would you believe that collectively, these people in the studio audience have lost 7,010 pounds on the microdial? Now, why are you smiling, Ruth?
Because I've lost 75 pounds.
And by 10 weeks, I had lost 38 pounds I needed to lose, and that was 11 months ago.
How many pounds ago was that video?
135.
135 pounds. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
like a recycled teenager.
It's worked for so many of you. It's worked for my friends. It's even worked for my mother. But the important thing is, it can work for you too. So don't wait any longer. You've got nothing to lose but the wait. Just pick up the phone and do it. Believe me, you'll be glad you did.
For free information, call 1-800-533-1800 now. Discover the affordable diet that probably costs less than you spend on groceries. That's 1-800-533-1800 for a free micro-diet information kit. Call 1-800-533-1800 now or write to this address.
Earth Alert Partners, Channel 8 and Portland General Electric invite you to find ways to make a difference for the environment. Contact 1000 Friends of Oregon, 223-4396.
The first blast of energy ever from an experimental nuclear fusion reactor is giving a boost to hopes that fusion eventually can be used to produce commercial power. Scientists in England say they achieved a controlled fusion reaction yesterday, producing 1.7 megawatts of power for about a second. They say temperatures in their reactor got 20 times hotter than the core of the sun. Fusion is the process by which the sun produces its energy. It's supposed to be much safer and cleaner than fission, which is what nuclear plants now use to produce power. But scientists say fusion won't be ready for commercial use for decades. Well, now it's time to check in with Pete Parsons for a look at the national weather map and forecast for around the state. Pete?
Nancy, you mentioned earlier the strong storm in the East Coast. The wind's not as strong with that today, but still a pretty impressive storm system off the Carolina coastline, North Carolina coast. That's moving off toward the north. You see the isobars very close together here, indicating the strong winds coming from the northeast into the mid-Atlantic coast states. But also, there's some fairly cool air back behind that, and that moisture is overriding that. And there was a pretty good glaze this morning in sections of West Virginia, up to an inch of ice. In Beckley, West Virginia, a lot of transformers exploding this morning due to the ice accumulation. Temperatures moderating somewhat, but still a mix across Pennsylvania up into New York State. A lot of record lows this morning from the northern Atlantic coast all the way down to Florida. Rochester, New York, 15 degrees this morning. That was a record low in West Palm Beach, Florida, 46. So still some very cool air in place there. Also more cool air pouring into the northern plains, the leading edge of that producing some snow across Minnesota and Wisconsin. That'll continue through tonight. Some rain showers, generally rain showers in the Rockies. Very warm in the southwest. A lot of sun today in California and cloudy skies, but generally fair conditions across the northwest. 53 degrees today in Boise, 54 in Great Falls. That's a lot warmer than they have been. Above freezing temperatures all the way to Minneapolis with all the snow on the ground there. It's snowing there now, but 34 for a high. 76 degrees with sunshine in Phoenix today. 53 in Atlanta. 68 down in Miami. Only 42, a raw day in the nation's capital. Quite a bit of rain activity. Here's a look at our satellite picture. Pretty good storm system off the coastline. That's going to be very slow to move east. The flow generally coming in off the ocean. That's why we've been so incredibly mild all month long. A lot of clouds around tonight and tomorrow, and as the system gets closer, we'll see an increasing chance of rain as we go through the day tomorrow. The cold front looks like it'll come through on Tuesday. That looks to be a rather wet one. And then we'll get back to some cooler weather and more showery conditions on Wednesday, maybe even a little bit of snow into the Cascades. Snow level way too high for that right now. No advisories up along the coastline, southeast wind at 10 to 20 knots. Tonight, a lot of fog forming in the valleys, otherwise mid and high-level clouds across most of the state. The rain confined to the extreme northwest corner. We'll see that rain slowly make its way south and east during the day tomorrow. Otherwise, a fair day once the morning fog burns off with some sunshine. East wind through the gorge. 40s tonight west of the Cascades. Generally 30s or upper 20s east side. Tomorrow with some sun east of the Cascades. A very nice day like today, up into the 50s. West side we'll see the clouds rolling in and a chance of rain late in the day. High temperature at 60. Jack Capell will have the detailed forecast in just a couple of minutes, and we'll take a look out 5 days. Clear through your work week.
Okay, thank you, Pete.
You bet.
Firefighters are getting a hand from Kuwait's royalty to cap the last burning oil well. Chuck Roberts has that story and more in this week's edition of Environment Week.
Kuwait's oil field inferno is over, but its legacy lingers. Kuwait's emir symbolically extinguished the final fire Wednesday, putting out a blaze that had been reignited especially for the occasion. The oil field fires have sent thousands of tons of toxic gases into the air since the Gulf War, and damaged wells have spilled millions of barrels of oil into the fragile desert. The greenhouse effect may be taking a toll on the Earth's largest carnivores. Each year, summer interrupts polar bears' hunt for seals. They wait for the ice to firm up again before heading out to find their favorite food. Some researchers say global warming could present a serious problem.
These bears are all spending 4 months of the year onshore without seals to eat right now. So if it starts to get warmer and break up as earlier and freeze up as later, I think it won't be very long before you would find that it would stress polar bears very badly.
In Brazil, the men who killed rainforest defender Chico Mendes have been sentenced to 19 years in prison. A rancher was convicted for planning the murder, and his son was convicted of doing the killing. Mendez led rubber tree tappers in a drive to save the rainforest. He was assassinated 3 years ago. Some heavy metal fans are sporting earplugs. The ear gear is not a comment on the quality of the music. Rather, it symbolizes how loud music can be a kind of noise pollution. Koss Company, which invented the stereo headphone, says it wants to protect concert-goers' ears from dangerous decibel levels. So it passed out 12,000 free pair of earplugs at a Metallica show in Milwaukee this week. With the week's environmental news, I'm Chuck Roberts, CNN reporting.
In almost every Northwest community, the number of homeless children and youth is on the rise. And that is the subject of tonight's Channel 8 editorial from Boyd Levitt.
Nearly 2,000 teens and children live on the streets of our metro area. The next time you see them shivering in this weather, consider this. Most of these kids left home because they were forced out. Some were beaten, others sexually abused by family members, still others were kicked out by drug or alcohol-addicted parents who found their teenagers too much to handle. What's really sad is that many say life on the streets, with all its misery, is preferable to what they endured at home, so here they are. There aren't enough resources to feed, clothe, or shelter them all, and their numbers are climbing by 40% in the last 2 years. All of us need to step in where their dysfunctional families have left off. Demand that your elected leaders make these kids a priority. They know the problem exists, but their political will to solve it doesn't. That comes from you and your tax dollars and donations to pay for the treatment, jobs, and shelters these kids need. It's much cheaper than the cost of the crime, disease, crisis pregnancies, and death that accompany life on the streets. Now, if you prefer to do more on a personal level, contact the Tri-County Youth Consortium at 227-6445.
Channel 8 welcomes viewer response.
Coming up in our final news segment, a reminder about what's open and what's closed for Veterans Day tomorrow. And we will show you Dong Dong, a baby panda that will steal your heart.
Earth Alert Partners, Channel 8 and Portland General Electric invite you to find ways to make a difference for the environment. Contact the Oregon Environmental Council, 222-1963.
Perfect Looks Perm Sale ends on the 15th.
Get ready for ski season now at G.I. Joe's, because Joe's has K2 6.7 recreational skis with markers, M27 bindings, a terrific ski package for only $219. Gordini ski gloves will keep your hands warm and dry, even in the worst weather. And check out our large selection of Columbia sportswear parkas. For the hottest ski gear, the best selection, and the lowest prices, it's the ski department at G.I. Joe's.
Dr. Science, why does Taco Time put that jalapeno pepper on top of every Mexi meal?
Contrary to prevailing theories of thermodietetics, that jalapeno is strictly a size reference. The Mexi meal is so massive, how they get it all on one plate is a mystery to me. How they make it all from scratch and yet serve it so economically is a mystery to Alan Greenspan. You're skeptical, I can tell. Try a Mexi meal.
And if I'm not completely satisfied?
Tell him we'll buy it back. Whoa, the chairman speaks.
People who don't belong just don't get it.
I think they think we're just a bunch of beer-drinking winos that go and puke on their lawn at 4 o'clock in the morning.
People whose sons belong just wonder.
It's an actual hit, but it's home.
But a tried and true member knows what fraternity life is really all about.
I mean, back to school. Yeah, it's all about school.
It's the male bonding thing that people overlook.
Find out what's going down on Fraternity Row in a special report starting Monday on News 8 at 5.
Tomorrow is a holiday, Veterans Day, and here's a list of what will be closed. Federal, state, county, and city offices and courts are all closed. All post offices are closed as well. No pickup or deliveries. All branches of the Multnomah County Library are routinely closed on Mondays. Public schools and most banks and liquor stores are closed. TriMet will run as usual, and all parking meters are free. And as for the weather for Veterans Day, Jack can help us on that.
Well, we're starting to get in some rain. We expect it'll be in about tomorrow afternoon. Portland forecast is for some rain tomorrow afternoon or at least by tomorrow evening. Now for tonight, we can look for just cloudy with areas of fog and a mild low of about 47 degrees. And tomorrow, let's just say rain by afternoon, but it could be evening before it gets here, and a high of about 60. The 5-day outlook indicates that we'll have more rain on Tuesday and even more rain on Wednesday, and then we'll get some cooler air aloft and taper off on the rain toward the end of the week. Mild for the next few days anyway, then start to cool aloft somewhat midweek.
Well, Joe Becker is back now, I believe, with an update on the Blazer game.
That's right. The Blazers are winning, and Larry Bird and the Celtics are in town, so it's quite an exciting night at the Coliseum. The game got underway shortly after 5, and they're in the second quarter right now as we check the scoreboard. The Blazers were leading by 9 points, 35-26 after the first quarter, and right now it's 43-34. That's second quarter, 43-34 in the second quarter. We have highlights of the game tonight at 11. Meanwhile, it's week number 11 in the NFL, and once again the Seahawks suffer a disappointing loss. Seattle rallied for 2 touchdowns in the final quarter to tie the Chargers, but John Carney booted a 53-yard field goal with 23 seconds to go, and San Diego wins at 17-14. The Hawks are 5-5 in the year. Elsewhere in the NFL, Buffalo whipped Green Bay by 10. Tampa Bay wins for the second time this year. The Colts get their first win of the year. Cleveland loses to Philly. Pittsburgh beats Cincy in overtime. KC by 7 over the Rams. Denver lost to the Raiders. The Giants over Phoenix. The Redskins win. The Saints win. Dallas tipped Houston. New England trails Miami and Chicago at Minnesota tomorrow night.
All right, let's hope the Blazers keep it up. Thanks, Joe. It is not just polar bears who gather this time of year in Canada. Tourists from all around the world take the opportunity to see the bears as they make their annual appearance. Dan Blackburn reports from Manitoba.
Getting up close and almost personal with the world's largest land carnivore can be the experience of a lifetime, one shared by only relatively few others.
Okay, you want to see your first bear? Yeah. He's right on the shoreline over here. Walking down the shore. There he is. See it, Joy?
I see it. For a few short weeks each fall, the bears gather on the western shore of Hudson Bay. Here, they wait for the water to freeze so they can journey out onto the ice and resume their hunt for seals. It is this unique polar bear congregation that brings tourists to the area. The polar bear viewers ride on specially designed tundra buggies with very large wheels. They put travelers above and, perhaps more important, out of reach of the hungry and curious Arctic giants. Full-grown male bears can weigh in at more than 1,500 pounds. From the buggies, however, they look more cuddly than threatening.
It's pretty nice to see the people when they first see a polar bear. They always make that same noise, like, ah. And then a lot of people, the women especially, will start crying sometimes because they get so excited.
His nose up in the air. Got his nose up in the air. Look. Smells something. 15 miles away. Isn't that what he can smell?
They get coaching on taking pictures.
What you've got now is sort of an environmental shot with that nice background, so go ahead with what you've got there.
And lectures on bear biology.
But this is now being called the myth of the solar polar bear. That polar bears are really not walking greenhouses, and that most of what's going on here is that bears are fat, and they survive the winter in their winter cold because they are fat, and in fact, they don't really have this great way of trapping ultraviolet light down to their skin.
Comes to $448.
Polar bear tours are not cheap, costing more than $2,000 plus airfare. But those who come seem to feel the experience is worth it.
I have thoroughly enjoyed this. This has been something that's something I will always remember.
To be safe, the tours come equipped with armed guides.
If you get charged or in your situation where one of the visitors, the bear has a tourist by the neck or something like that, you can startle the bear by firing off 3 or 4 shots and hopefully give yourself enough time to rescue the person or get yourself out of a situation that you don't want to be in. No, the last thing we want to do would be to kill a bear, and we've never had to out there.
Although some worry that being exposed to tourists could be bad for the bears, polar bear experts actually credit tourism here with helping the cause of polar bear conservation. Dan Blackburn, CNN, Churchill, Canada.
And finally tonight, a rare event in the life of a rare animal is captivating China. A giant panda at the China Research and Conservation Center is the proud mother of a new cub. The baby was born 6 days ago and is named Dong Dong. Scientists at the center will study the youngster for the first 2 years of his life. Giant pandas have babies only once a year, and both mother and baby are said to be very healthy. Before we go, we want to let you know that NBC Nightly News was preempted today by football earlier this afternoon. Of course, we will have a full news update, local, international, and national news, tonight on News 8 at 11. We'll see you then. Have a good evening.